No word whether those teens were charged.
Douglas County Police have made an arrest in a bomb threat at a local hospital. Officers were called to Wellstar Douglas around 3:30 Tuesday afternoon. The hospital was placed on lockdown as a precaution. Officers say they quickly identified the caller as Lataris Whitley. The 45-year-old was taken into custody. Police have not said what charges Whitley is facing, if any. New details tonight about on Capitol Hill today, lawmakers continue to fight over a potential parental bill of rights.
This is about promoting transparency. It is our job.
It does not promote parent-teacher partnerships. It just creates division in our school.
Republicans and Democrats are at odds over the bill, which aims to give parents more control over their child's education. Republicans say the move protects children from some things taught in the classroom. Meanwhile, Democrats argue the bill creates division and will lead to more book bans. A final House vote on this legislation is expected on Friday, but it has little chance of being passed in the Senate.
The South Carolina Law Enforcement Division are...
This goes out to the parents. Do you want the Biden administration to take away your parental rights? Well, that's what they got planned. And it's all over this transgender thing. Telling you, you have no choice.
Neighbor Milan Sidnor lives across the street. She was getting ready for the day when shots rang out.
Heard a few gunshots, and about 5 minutes later, the police pulled up.
We didn't hear any shots, but around here, there's shooting going on all the time.
Sandy Mize lives next door to the victim and says crime is out of control.
Oh, yeah, it's all the time. This is really bad neighborhood. As far as anything's concerned, it's just a lot of crime.
The suspect was transported to an area hospital where he was pronounced dead.
What you just told me really upset me. I'm sorry. Because that could be one of my neighbors or me.
DeKalb resident Joanne Proctor was alarmed to learn of the attempted home invasion. She lives in a neighboring community and has her own crime concerns.
Young guys are stalking the neighborhood at night, like 4, 5 in the morning. They checking doors.
The homeowner went down to the police station to be interviewed and returned mid-morning, entering the house without speaking with reporters. Police haven't said why the suspect was trying to break into the residence or if the victim was targeted. The homeowner was not hurt. DeKalb police say that they do not expect to file charges. In DeKalb County, Deidre Dukes, Fox 5 News.
All right, Deidre.
His right cheek facial area. The expensive designer item apparently referenced in a myriad of charges filed against the officer. No gifts permitted. On Wednesday, we reported on another clip. The courthouse document account of the inmate, this time only his hand visible, sticking their left hand pointing finger into the mouth of D.O. Jenkins in a sexual manner. Sheriff Pat Labatt terminated Ms. Jenkins. He wrote, "The actions of this one individual are certainly not a reflection of the men and women of the Fulton County Sheriff's Office. The vast majority of employees are to be commended for their integrity, commitment to service, and the work they do day in and day out."
The young lady was compromised, and I hope that she can get the help that she needs, but it definitely needs to be away from the sheriff's office.
States. Missy Owen is the co-founder of the Davis Direction Foundation, a nonprofit created to fight addiction and fuel recovery. She keeps up with the stats.
And there has been a 1,120% increase in the number of overdoses we've seen from xylazine from 2019 until 2022.
Xylazine, known by its street name as Tranq, is an animal tranquilizer used by veterinarians. It's cheap to get, and according to the CDC, some people add it to other drugs, typically fentanyl, in an attempt to achieve a longer high. It's also called the zombie drug.
You've seen the zombies on Walking Dead, things like that, and you see they all have these necrotic lacerations, ulcerations. It creates those things in a body. So what it does is it actually rots the flesh.
Here's what's scarier than zombies.
The Narcan that you use to revive the opioid overdose, the Narcan has zero effect on the xylazine.
The Georgia Department of Public Health says many states have seen a dramatic increase in drug overdoses involving xylazine, and Georgia's numbers are also rising. Owen, whose son Davis died of an overdose, worries about the teens and preteens.
Our 10 to 19-year-olds have experienced an 800% overdose increase with the fentanyl alone. This is just a disaster waiting to happen.
Those who use drugs may not know that xylazine is in their drug supply. However, there is a way to test for fentanyl with test strips. Narcan and test strips are available at numerous locations, including at the Zone in Marietta, where they are given away for free. In Cobb County, Denise Still.
That they were paid to promote crypto. The crew agreed to pay $400,000, including fines and return what they were paid for the promotion. Lohan was paid $10,000 to promote tokens from the company Tron.
Would you be interested in having an affair?
I'm dead.
I didn't do it.
A new trailer is out for Love and Death, a forthcoming HBO Max original limited series, and it is based on the real-life case of Candy Montgomery, a character played by Elizabeth Olsen. It follows two church-going couples whose once quiet lives get upturned by the pursuit of an affair. Then, well, drama ensues. This miniseries is said to be coming later this year.
Bit nebulous. They're not yes or no. TikTok CEO Shou Chew addressed what he called misconceptions about his platform, like concerns that it's funneling sensitive information to China. TikTok's parent company ByteDance is based out of Beijing.
Can you guarantee that no one at ByteDance had a role in preparing you for today's hearing?
I prepared for this hearing with my team here in D.C. TikTok has plans to give Texas-based Oracle control of all data of those in the U.S. who use TikTok. Lawmakers weren't sold.
I have seen no evidence that the Chinese government has access to that data.
I find that actually preposterous.
Thursday's hearing turned testy when Florida Republican Kat Kammack played a threatening TikTok video targeting the committee holding the hearing. TikTok removed the video mid-hearing.
And you expect us to believe that you are capable of maintaining the data security, privacy, and security of 150 million Americans where you can't even protect the people in this room?
User safety was also a topic, especially for teens. Critics called out TikTok for hurting mental health and for promoting dangerous viral challenges aimed at kids.
Would you share this content with your children? Your technology is literally leading to death.
Democrat Frank Pallone of New Jersey said TikTok CEO only heightened concerns about the Communist Party controlling the app. On Capitol Hill, Chad Pergram, Fox News.
The same country, China, who claims that they're not gathering this data, that this is they're not spying on American citizens, is the same country that sent a balloon across the United States over targeted military strategic areas of the United States and claimed that it was a weather balloon gone rogue. It's something that we cannot, obviously China is becoming hostile to the United States, and I don't trust them whenever they say that this data is not such data that they're gaining access to.
Congressman, there's another aspect to TikTok. Of course, you have the spying that's going on because, as you mentioned, it is owned by Chinese-owned ByteDance. Why do you think there's also such a difference between TikTok's algorithms in China and just the way the application is used among children in terms of delivering more educational content versus kind of what we get here in the United States?
Yeah, you make a good point. In fact, during the hearing, the CEO was questioned about TikTok is apparently a useful tool by groomers and individuals that are even using it to migrate illegally across the United States. So it's something that's not being watched carefully on TikTok. Sadly, it becomes an environment where predators can use it as a tool to try to gain access to children, and sadly, criminals are using it to immigrate across the border.
So, Congressman, this also isn't just about the U.S. being the big mean bully like the CCP tries to deflect and say toward China. Other countries like India have completely banned TikTok over national security concern.
Yeah. And already the military has identified that this is not a safe application to be installed. They've banned it. There's several agencies within the federal government that have already taken steps to ban its use. And I think that at the end of the day, American people, regardless of whether we pass something or not, the American people need to be strongly encouraged to delete this app from their phone. It is tracking your location. It's tracking biometric information. It's gaining a very disturbing amount of information about you as an individual. And that data, sadly, I think is available to the Chinese government.
Refugees that no other country wants. No other country wants them. If those opposing us succeed, our once beautiful USA will be a failed country that no one will even recognize, a lawless, open borders, crime-ridden, filthy communist nightmare. That's what it's going, and that's where it's going. I used to say that we will never be a socialist country. I said it oftentimes. I said it once at the State of the Union address, and people didn't understand what I was saying. But I'd shout it out loud, and I was right, because that train has passed the station long ago of socialism. It never even came close to stopping, frankly. We're now in a Marxism state of mind, a communism state of mind, which is far worse. We're a nation in decline. Our enemies are desperate to stop us because they know that we are the only ones who can stop them. They know that. This room is so important, the people in this room.
In my class, and where cultural revolutions happen every 7 years, where the haves are to be punished, where you are at fault because of your family or bloodline. Look at what is happening in America today. People are told to feel guilty for ancestors they had. They pay for their crimes. That's what reparations are all about. Rewarding people for what happened decades or even centuries ago, and making people pay for an injustice they had nothing to do with. Rather than using class, they use race as the dividing factor. A Chinese-American woman named Xi Van Fleet stepped on the scene to talk about this very thing in a school board meeting in Loudoun County, Virginia. Take a look.
I've been very alarmed about what's going on in our school. You are now training our children to be social justice warriors and to loathe our country and our history. Growing up in South China, all this seems very familiar. The communist regime used the same critical theory to divide people. The only difference is they use class instead of race. This is indeed the American version of the Chinese Cultural Revolution. The critical race theory has its roots in cultural Marxism. It should have no place in our schools.
You may remember that she took this stand as school boards were implementing critical race theory in classrooms, which taught students to hate their country. Van Fleet, like many Chinese Americans, fled communist China to come to America to find her destiny and dream. Her first name is Xi, the same name as CCP leader Xi Jinping. This is why I titled this episode She versus She, because it's a double entendre, but the name also sounds like the pronoun she. She is the one talking about the failure of China's leader Xi Jinping, and warning America that what she ran from is happening right here in America.
Your level of wokeness determine your chance to get promotion or to get benefit. And who decides your level of wokeness? And it's the party leaders.
Do you see how this is a...
Welcome from Vancouver, Canada. And we've been hearing a lot here in the U.S. about election interference in Canada and Chinese Communist Party involvement. Now, what's going on over there?
So the public is now seeing that the Chinese United Front is influencing a lot of what's happening politically. Our intelligence agency, CSIS, the Canadian Security Intelligence Service, has released some documents. They've been leaked to a reporter. Some of the politicians in ridings in Papineau and in Montreal received donations from United Front related entities, and the money stemming back to China and the diaspora that they are attempting to control. This has been going on for quite some time, and the intelligence services, some law enforcement, and certain individuals that have been trying to raise awareness around the issues with the United Front Work Department. What the intelligence agency is saying is that they've briefed the Prime Minister's office on the information that is in these documents, and that there were recommendations made not to have one of the politicians, be backed and into that position. Han Dong is the name of the individual, and that's what's really starting to cause concern that, people knew about this, the intelligence service knew about this. And in fact, one politician went so far as to say, we should actually have an inquiry into the intelligence agency. People are calling for a public inquiry into what happened, and the Prime Minister right now is diverting attention and saying that he'll investigate and he will use his appointed intelligence associations and what was supposed to be like an oversight committee, but they're appointed by the Prime Minister to look into it. So it's basically the Prime Minister saying he'll investigate himself, and people are not happy with that and not satisfied.
Well, you're telling me that this is something that we've been aware of for some time, but somehow we've kind of lost focus. So tell me about that. This is something you actually know quite a bit about, I think.
The elements of hybrid warfare, which is, one of the big ones is sharp power, which is political influence and leveraging, propaganda. And that's where we see the United Front Work Department.
And just very briefly, Scott, if you could just jump in and remind people what the United Front Work Department is of the Chinese Communist Party.
So the United Front Work Department is called the Magic Weapon. That's what Xi Jinping has titled it. And it's basically an element that is designed to do two things, intelligence and propaganda. So they go out into the world and the community, and to be honest, Vancouver is at ground zero in Canada, likely in North America. And it's there to collect information and bring it back to the CCP about, what opportunities there are, technologies, a lot of the espionage pieces, and that correlates to the spy agencies within China and also the People's Liberation Army and others that use this information. And then the propaganda piece is trying to influence and leverage whatever they can, whether it's corporately or politically, in favor of the objectives of Beijing.
So we're going to talk about all this, but before we go there, you've been an intelligence guy for decades, and maybe give us just a picture of your career span up to today.
Certainly. I first joined the military in 1989. I've served in the Army, the Navy, and the Air Force. My last position was in intelligence, where you have to be selected to be able to get into the intelligence in Canada. It's not something you can just sign up to be. And I worked in military intelligence for 15 years. And, my career saw me in Afghanistan, doing a lot of different work with counterterrorism and that type of thing. And I left the military and moved on to the RCMP, where I came in and was identified as an intelligence person. So they asked me to take a look at a few things. One of the big ones was a pilot project looking at conversions between transnational organized crime and national security. Now, one thing for the viewers to understand is that the Five Eyes, which is Australia, Great Britain, the United Kingdom, New Zealand, Canada, and the United States, we have an intelligence agreement to share information. All of the Five Eyes have a strategy on transnational organized crime, identifying it as a threat to national security, all but Canada. So what that does is it allows the different elements within that country, so within the United States, military and law enforcement are able to share information that isn't just law enforcement sensitive. It's